Hello, everybody. Welcome to Up on Deck. My name is Tyler Wargo, and I am pleased to be joined by play-by-play broadcaster for the AAA Dodgers, Oklahoma City Comets broadcaster, Alex Freedman. Alex Freedman, how are we doing today?
Doing great, Tyler. Thanks for having me.
And so let's jump right into it. Considering the fact that you are working for a team that's in the farm system of a team that has won the World Series, of course, the 2024 World Series champions, being the Los Angeles Dodgers, pitching is still very crucial for the Dodgers, and they all come out of Oklahoma City, the team that you broadcast for. How does the organization handle transactions regarding pitching prospects from LA that might be on a rehab assignment in Oklahoma City? How does that interfere with players that are pitching prospects for the Oklahoma City Comets?
Yeah, I think that's kind of a twofold question. The easier one to answer is in terms of the rehab assignments. There's no guarantee. It really depends on kind of the severity of the injury, the length the guy's been out. But we had a lot of notable rehab assignments last year between a couple with Clayton Kershaw, a couple with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Blake Trinan earlier in the year. Of course, he was so crucial. Walker Buehler, who spent so much of his time with us last season while he was coming back from his second Tommy John surgery. Typically rehab assignments, they're very meticulously planned in terms of that pitcher's calendar leading up to a potential return date. It's like, okay, well, we want to target, this many pitches or this many innings. Um, on a certain day, and then the progression happens. Of course, a lot of it has to do with where's each minor league affiliate at the time. They prefer to have guys pitch at home because sometimes the other facilities, the road facilities, aren't as consistent as the Dodgers would like them, or there's some more unknowns. Fortunately, once you get to AAA, they're all pretty good. But you also have to consider the environments as well. There are a couple of really hitter-friendly environments that are in our league out in the Pacific Coast League. And I was very surprised that Walker Buehler actually pitched in Albuquerque, which is probably the most offensive friendly uh, hitting environment in all of baseball, minors and majors. But no, he made a rehab start out there as well. And, again, it's just a gradual process. You want to make sure the guy is recovering okay as well. Sometimes that they target when I say in terms of innings, it's what we like to call up downs, and that's when a guy pitches an inning, goes back to the dugout, while teams at bat and goes back. So the target for one day might be four up downs. So that means he completes three innings and then just goes out to face one batter in the fourth, regardless of what that hitter does. Might strike him out, might get a base hit. It's just to start to build that endurance back up in terms of where they need to be at when they return to the big leagues. In terms of the other guys who are on the 40-man roster, really ones who are AAA who aren't on the 40-man roster, it really is always on standby, especially these days. And there are several times it's not just the Dodgers, but everywhere where a guy on the 40-man roster is supposed to pitch one day, and you get a call. The coaching staff gets a call from the front office that they're not going to pitch that day, whether it's a starter or they might go into a game knowing that certain relievers are not available in the case that they might be needed for big league call up. It's not always, oh, this guy is getting called up. It's we might need him. So contingencies are always in place because the most important thing is how the big league club is doing. That's just the reality of the situation and how it affects AAA. This year, the Dodgers went so far into their depth. I mean, so many guys, as I like to say, probably weren't even remotely close to being on the radar to appearing in a big league game, ended up pitching in big league games this year, from the Justin Robleskis, Ben Kasparias, Edgardo Henriquez, just a few off the top of my head to name a few. And of course, it's going to be a little bit interesting this year with the Dodgers planning a six-man rotation and how that will change and how that will also change when Shohei Ohtani returns to pitch as well, because his spot will not count against the pitcher limit. So it's a lot of wait and see. Again, coaching at the AAA level is so hard for various reasons, but like one of which is, you might think you go into a game one way and then you get a call and your plans have to completely change with not a whole lot of time before the game starts.
And you did mention Walker Buehler playing for Albuquerque, far away from, even farther away from not only just Oklahoma City ballpark, but also just Los Angeles. We saw that as well with Clayton Kershaw. There was a time when he pitched in Reno because that was the closest and most convenient time that he could be able to play for the Oklahoma City Comets to get him to quickly get back up to the starting rotation.
Well, he didn't actually end up pitching in Reno. They thought initially he would, but then I think just because of the physical thing, they ended up pushing it back. But yeah, it depends on a lot of different factors. Like you said, travel is certainly one of them. A lot of those guys on the pitching side, specifically starting pitchers, will not typically spend a lot of their time with the minor league affiliate. They'll come into town to make their start, and then they'll either go back to the team's facility in Arizona or back to LA and do the rest of their rehab there. So travel comes into it. Sometimes they will stick around with the team as if they were, a full-fledged member of the AAA affiliate. That's more common with relievers because there's going to be shorter time in between when they end up pitching. But yeah, like I said, so many different factors at play that go into rehab assignments and all that.
So, next question that I have for you, Alex, what does it mean for you to broadcast for a team that may receive lots of recognition to other teams just because of the fact that they play for a high market team and the city that they play for, which is Los Angeles? What goes through? Is there any like pressure that you feel as a broadcaster, maybe not being also the only broadcaster that you have? Is there any adjustment for that as well?
No, I don't think there's any pressure or adjustment, but it is nice to know that there are more eyeballs on your team and potentially your broadcasts as well, being part of such a great organization. And that truly is one of my favorite parts of the job is being a Dodgers affiliate, not only from the talent level that we've been able to consistently see that have not only come through in Oklahoma City, but have gone on to make a big impact to the big league level. You look at the two World Series in the last 5 years, and about half the active roster in the World Series each time is composed of guys who played in Oklahoma City. So that's always great to see. And again, just the recognition that comes being part with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Of course, the recent success helps, but just the history behind it as well. It's not a what you would call a quote unquote natural fit. We are actually the furthest distance between a AAA affiliate and their major league parent club among the 30 major league teams. But the Dodgers first wanted to come to Oklahoma City in 2015 because they felt it was going to be best for their player development in terms of the environment that it was in. And, it's a partnership that's now coming up on its 10-year anniversary and it's going to go through at least 2030, hopefully well beyond that as well. But yeah, just being part of the Dodgers organization, so special. All the people you come into contact with, all the different luminaries who you either get to meet at spring training or you go out and they come here on minor league visits as well. Everybody that's in the organization, just tremendous people, from player development officials to baseball operations staff to the way they target players and coaches to be part of their organization. Everybody is high character. Everybody is great to deal with, and just really so fortunate to be part of the Dodgers organization.
And being a part of the Dodgers organization, being the AAA broadcaster, what's your favorite and most memorable call that you have had in Oklahoma City? I know there's probably a lot of them, but if you had to choose, what one would that be?
Well, I'm going to give you three. The first of which it has to be when our team won the championship, 2023 PCL championship. It was Oklahoma City's first title in 27 years. And in the minors, once you get to 25 without a title, when you're playing in leagues that are smaller, you're not competing with 29 other teams for a World Series like you are in Major League Baseball. That's considered a pretty considerable drought, despite the fact that more often than not, we've had really good teams. So to have that was great for me personally, going on at the time, my 16th year and working in professional baseball. Three previous times teams I'd worked for had gotten to the championship round and lost. So that was just a big thrill back in September 2023. Another one happened in 2022. James Outman hit a walk-off home run to complete the cycle. First time I had broadcasted for the team I was broadcasting for, a player had hit the cycle. I'd seen the cycle done by a couple of opposing players before, but never by one of the players that the team I was broadcasting for. And he hits like I said, not only that, but a walk-off home to complete it. It was on one of our military appreciation nights. It was a fireworks night, big crowd. It was an important game too at the end of August against the team we were battling for the division against. So that's definitely one of my favorites. And then going back to 2015, kind of a similar scenario to the James Outman play I just mentioned. was actually the final week of the regular season and trying to wrap up a division title, and we're playing a doubleheader against the Iowa Cubs. And this is before the current extra inning rules were in place, with the runner starting the inning at second. And it was also game one of a doubleheader. So in the minor leagues, doubleheaders are 7 innings in length. Of course, if you go to extra innings, you go to extra innings, but the standard length is 7 innings for doubleheaders in the minor leagues. So this game ends up going 19 innings. So 12 extra innings. And it was won on a walk-off home run by a guy named Buck Britton. He's now the manager of the Orioles AAA affiliate in Norfolk, and kind of a weird full circle moment when we went to the AAA National Championship in 2023. It was against Norfolk. So I got to see Buck for the first time, and we talked about that play for a little bit. But that, was just game one of a doubleheader. And because it was also the final week of the regular season, most of the times you'll have curfews in place on a certain innings can't start before a certain time. Well, that wasn't in place because it was the final week of the regular season. So it was a very long day of baseball. The Oklahoma City, then known as the Dodgers, ended up winning both games that effectively ended the division race. Didn't formally clinch till the next night, but that was definitely another one that always sticks out.
Do you know like how many fans were also there like during the 19 innings? Because sometimes maybe kids got to go back because they got school the next day. How many fans were still in attendance during that stretch?
Well, I would say for the first game, still probably a decent amount considering it was also the middle of the week. I believe it was a Tuesday. It was a Tuesday or a Wednesday. And because of the doubleheader, the first pitch of game one was like at 4:35. So I think by that point, we're probably like when a normal game would end, or maybe even later than that. I don't remember. I do remember game two ended right around 1 a.m. So I would assume it probably started around 11 p.m. So if we're backtracking further, like probably the first game ended around 10:30 or 11 or so. So I think given the circumstances, there was a decent amount of people, but like I said, it wasn't a Friday or Saturday night where we had a huge crowd to begin with. And now, as much as I hate to admit it, it's almost 10 years ago, and I don't quite remember.
So the next question that I have to ask you, when you first started out broadcasting, what was the adjustment like realizing that you were broadcasting for the triple, like when you started out with the AAA Comets? What was the adjustment like realizing that you were the only one broadcasting and not having a caller with you? How was that adjustment?
Yeah, and I think that's, in the minor leagues, so many places only have one broadcaster. And I mean, it started when I first started out working in pro ball at the high A level. And my first year, was a two-man partner. I was kind of the second there. And then my partner left for a different job. And then it was just me. And I just basically been going solo ever since. And there's no pressure. You learn to adjust. You learn that it's okay to also, to a certain extent, be the color analyst as well. Share more of your observations. I mean, I'd love to have a bona fide color analyst like all the big league teams do, but we don't live in ideal worlds. We live in reality. So those guys aren't exactly easy to find. They don't grow on trees, and also we have some budget restrictions as well. Just being perfectly honest. So that's a big reason why a lot of guys will just go solo. So I don't remember necessarily the first few times doing it. I don't remember ever feeling it was overwhelming or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that I think myself or others who are in my position will do that you won't see in the big leagues, that, we might rely a little bit more sometimes on what else is going around the league, what's going on with the big league affiliate, the other minor league affiliates in the organization. Some guys might do stuff like trivia or This Day in Baseball. Something that I started doing last year was text the broadcast booth. So you have questions, comments, whatever. Just another way for fan interaction too, in a way to help. Of course, things are easier now since the pitch clock. Pitch clock, best invention probably in baseball history, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, going from basically an average game of 3 hours, 20 minutes to closer to 2.5, 2:40 it's made the job a little bit easier too.
And because of that, people look up to that. As you know, a lot of people from not only just Oklahoma but all around the country look up to broadcasters like you who may do it by themselves, because starting out, you may be the only one broadcasting just to get those reps. Now that's going to transition me to my next question. What would you tell journalists or just broadcasters in general starting out in this industry? Any advice that you would give them?
It's not unique, but experience is the best teacher, and getting those reps is going to be the most important thing. Whatever line of work that you're pursuing. And I think the great thing about kids from your generation and a little bit older is there were so many more opportunities to do things in school than when I was your age. Just the way the technology has advanced, every school now streams just about everything, and they rely on a lot of those in-house to do it. That didn't exist when I was in college. And I remember I was part of the first ever kind of video streaming broadcast for our school's basketball team. And it was like, whoa, look at this. So that's the great thing is you guys have a lot of more opportunities. The downside of that is so does everybody else.
Mhm.
So when it comes to applying for jobs, everybody has now a lot of experience too. But again, just getting the experience any way that you can is the best thing, because for jobs like this, I know some colleges will have classes about play-by-play and sports broadcasting, but until you do it, uh, there's only so much you can learn, inside a book, inside a classroom, or anything like that. So that's just the biggest thing. Another thing is, when applying for jobs, it's easily to get discouraged, but you really just have to look at it from a strict numbers perspective. And this is something that, I didn't have a great grasp of, when I was younger and applying for jobs. And now that I'm on the other side of it, and we just hired someone to join us in the communications department for a seasonal role. We got 150 applications for it. And whether you're looking to work in sports or you're looking to work at your local grocery store, if you're one of 150 people, your odds aren't good. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. It has nothing to do with you or your qualities or your capabilities. It really is just a strict numbers game, and you just never know what the employer might be looking for. It's just so subjective. I mean, there's so many people. It was so hard to narrow down the field to from that 150 to 10, and then our finalists from that. Like I said, because so many people have such great experience and great resumes now. Um, and it's the folks we didn't hire, it's nothing against them. There have been times in the past we passed on people who've gone on to great things. So just because you don't get hired or get an interview for a position, I mean, don't let it discourage you too much. And I know it's easy for me to say, and ultimately I'm still looking for that next career step too. So it's something that I'm still living from time to time as well. So those are, two of the biggest things that I think I would pass along and have passed along to others in the industry who are starting out.
So not only just broadcasting and how you started out, but is there anything that you had to become versatile to being, the broadcaster? Is there anything else that you had to do for the Comets off season, during the season?
Yeah, I mean, I work for the team full time. My formal title is Director of Communications and Broadcasting. So I oversee our communications efforts. And a lot of that, of course, is the baseball information side of things, specifically during the season. But a lot of it is non-baseball, especially leading up to the season. Like right now, we typically do a preseason. I don't like necessarily calling it a press conference, but media event that will kind of preview the season from more of a business and ballpark side with the local media, which is going to be in a couple weeks from now. So really in the big stages of that, we'll have a lot of different events that are coming up leading up to the season, like for our annual job fair, for our fan fest, for single game tickets going on sale. So it's writing press releases, posting it on the website, things like that, serving as the main point of contact for media, both local, national. Anytime they want to interview a player or coach, member of our front office, that goes through our department, which is me and one other person, on a full-time basis. But a lot of other broadcasters, whether it's responsibilities similar to mine or in sales. A lot of broadcasters will have to do sales in the off season too, and even a little bit during the season. And that's how it goes in the minor leagues, where again the resources aren't as plentiful. as they are with a big league team. So you hit on it. I mean, having as many skills as possible is huge, and also the willingness to be able to learn new things potentially on the job. The more you can do to go to a potential employer and show that you can do and how versatile you are, that's huge, because in this day and age, and it doesn't matter if it's our industry or something else, if it's like, hey, we can hire one person to do these multiple things as opposed to hire multiple people to do one thing, that's just going to be a big thing that you can bring to the table in terms of your attractiveness as a potential employee.
And going back to the farm system now, the team, the prospects, which Dodger prospect are you looking forward to seeing perform this 2025 season?
I mean, there's so many to choose from. You know, we got, and I know it's maybe a cop out answer, but we saw him for about a month and a half last year. Was Dalton Rushing, consider their top position player prospect, a guy who's got a kind of unique skill set where he's traditionally been a catcher, but when he first came to us, he was strictly playing left field before he started catching a little bit again. But just a real competitor in the batter's box, really fun to watch, you know, when he steps into that batter's box. So looking forward to see what Dalton's going to do to take a step further this year, and where defensively he's going to get the majority of his reps as well. That's certainly, I think, a big question leading into this year, and we might get some clarity in spring training and all that. Alex Freeman, another one, came up at the same time as Dalton did last year, and a guy who's just a very toolsy player, switch hitter, shortstop, can run. Was really starting to figure it out at the end of the regular season last year with us after it was a struggle his first few weeks at AAA, and that's, you know, not a unique problem to have. A lot of guys will go through that, but like I said, he was really starting to figure it out. So to see where maybe his next steps and progression will go as well is another big one. And the great thing about the Dodgers is, you know, there's so many other guys who might be lurking in the shadows or off the radar right now that'll go and start at the lower levels and have great seasons and find their way to you. And this guy's not off the radar, but I think a kid we have a chance of seeing at some point this year, probably not to start the year, is Jackson Ferris, who was the organization's minor league pitcher of the year last year, came over in a trade with the Cubs last January, a young left-handed pitcher. So hopefully looking forward to seeing him at some point as well this season.
Yeah, Jackson Ferris. You know, we saw him from the Great Lake Loons. You know, starting from there and then having to transition that to now the Double A and Triple A, because there's a big of a, I would say there's a little bit of a difference from low A to high A to then the Triple A, Double A, because then you're playing with a bunch of guys that had been in that system for a while.
Well, especially now, because with the way that their player caps in the minor leagues, uh, Major League Baseball eliminated the short season level of minor league baseball, so you have a lot of guys now who are starting the season at low A, which, quite honestly, if you give, you know, people player development truth serum, they probably shouldn't be. That you know, it's accelerated the timeline for everybody, not only at the lower levels but also throughout the entire minor leagues, and you're seeing the AAA rosters, not just ours but everybody's, get significantly younger. It's had a very negative impact on veteran free agents as well. Harder to get jobs now is veteran free agents because of the player caps and within every minor league system. So not only that, but I've always said that, you know, the biggest jump for a hitter is going to be from high A to Double A. Biggest jump for a pitcher is going to be from Double A to Triple A, because for the first time as a pitcher, you're facing guys who have been in the big leagues. Whereas as you're a hitter in Double A, you've kind of cut the fat down there, and like everyone in Double A can throw multiple pitches for strikes in any count. And now in Triple A as a pitcher, you're facing guys who are in the big leagues that really know the strike zone well for the first time, and you can almost see the thought bubble sometimes appearing from that guy on the mound when they throw a pitch that you're used to guys swinging at, and he's not now. So it's a huge adjustment. You know, like I said, those are the two biggest steps. I think it's a little bit different, you know, for between position player and pitcher side. But of course, you know, the biggest adjustment of all is still waiting for them when they get to the big leagues.
And last question I have. This is kind of similar to the last question I had, but this is now going to be focused on spring training. Which player or players are you looking forward to seeing perform in spring training this season?
Well, I think for the Dodgers specifically, it's going to be all the pitchers who were hurt last year and where they are in their progression, uh, and how that's going to affect not only their opening day roster, but how it's in turn then going to affect Oklahoma City's roster. So you think of the Tony Gonsolins, the Dustin Mays, who were out basically all of last year, and how are they going to get back to contributing this year? The easy answer, of course, is everybody's answer is how's Roki Sasaki going to do for the first time over in the United States? And I like to always remind people, good or bad, you got to remember it's still spring training, especially from a player coming from a foreign country. Everything is going to be new to them. Shohei Ohtani in 2017 did not have a good spring training. There was talks of him starting the year in AAA that I think a lot of people don't remember now. Um, so don't freak out. You know, if things maybe don't go as planned, of course, the Dodgers, they're going to be very judicious in how they dole out their innings within spring training. You also have to remember for the Dodgers and the Cubs, they start playing 2 regular season games in Japan well before everybody else. So that just means their timeline, the start of spring training, also is earlier than everybody else. And it's the second straight year it's happening for the Dodgers because they played a couple games in Korea last year. So that definitely has an effect on how spring training goes down as well. And guys who might go to those overseas games that won't be part of the domestic opening day roster. It certainly adds a little bit of a wrinkle to all the calculations. But yeah, I don't know if there's a specific person necessarily looking forward to, but I think just like a lot of people in the organization and Dodgers fans, just looking forward to a lot of hopefully questions being answered.
And you mentioned at the very beginning Dustin May. A lot of fans are speculating if he's going to be the closer guy for the Comets before he gets that call back up once that bullpen opens up for him. Can you see that?
You know, if there are things that I could predict, I'd be in another different I'd be in a different industry, I guess. You know, I think anyone who is a starter has a decent chance to become a reliever. I think that transition is harder than people make it out to be. They think, oh, it's so easy if you started to become a reliever. It's pretty difficult. You know, it's completely way your routine is your whole routine and your whole week is based on your start day and everything you do, and now you're transitioning to, you know, where you don't know when you're going to pitch. Yeah, looking at Dustin in the past certainly has the stuff to do it, and naturally, guys, the stuff will tend to tick up a bit when they're in shorter bursts coming out of the bullpen. Now, I don't know how if that's maybe the best for him, given coming off the injury and has had trouble really, honestly, just staying healthy when he's been in the big leagues this year, which was never really an issue when he was in the minors. But the last few years have been tough for him injury wise. So the folks who run the Dodgers are a heck of a lot smarter than I am. I don't ultimately know what their decisions are going to be. Maybe it is a little bit of a lower leverage relief role to get him if there's not a starting spot open, just to kind of get him back into big league games and get some of those reps again. But ultimately, you know, unfortunately, I don't really have the answer to that.
And so that's going to do it for Up on Deck. I want to say thank you guys for tuning in. Tyler Wargo with special guest Alex Freedman, who is the AAA broadcaster for the Oklahoma City Comets. I want to say thank you, Alex, for joining us, and take care.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.